You guys know what a narcissistic supply is? This is a psychological term. It's called a narcissistic supply. So a narcissist, of which I have many narcissistic qualities, has got to have attention. They got to have it. And they'll prefer to have it by the truth. They'll prefer to do good things. But they'll take it by a lie. They got to have it. They don't have a choice. For a narcissist, they're not a person. They're an image. You'll see this a lot of times in politics where somebody will completely fall apart. They were elected and they fall apart, but they're not a person. They're not a human being. They're an image. They got created by the media, but they want that image, and that image was good. That image got elected. Just for example, you see it in Hollywood constantly. You'll see it with child stars constantly. And to be a great in an individualized sport, more so than a team sport. A sport where the spotlight will be solely on you, for better or worse, but on you, and that's the path that you choose. You're going to have some narcissistic qualities. Now, the best version of yourself will be yourself in training. It's a very important thing, and I say this as a coach, and it is the only piece of advice my father-in-law has ever given me. He trusted me and handed me his daughter without condition. But he gave me one piece of advice about his grandchildren. And he told me, Chael, keep them going. Whatever it is. You can set the goal that they be the state champion or they be the national champion. You can set whatever goal you want, and whether that comes true or it doesn't come true, get them into the practice room the next day, no matter what. If that makes them the star of the team or that makes them a walk-on, whatever it is, keep them going. Do not let them have free time. And it's one of the reasons that I've always given back. Right? Coach or go down to the local high school, give back to the kids. Is it somewhere for them to go? While I would like to believe that I'm teaching them a skill, while I would like to believe that, I know that I'm sending them home tired. That is my contribution. Not the single leg and the fireman's carry. I'm going to take a group of roughnecks, I'm going to show them something, but I'm going to send them home tired. So the best version of yourself is during a training camp. And BJ Penn made that very public. BJ Penn, I use that just as a name that you would know, started to have some distractions, and he didn't like that about himself. And he went to Dana and he said, listen, I know I'm eligible for release, but I'm not fighting pay-per-views, and I'm not fighting in main events, and I'm not taking pay-per-view and championship points. I just need some purpose. I've made enough money, and I'm a popular enough guy back home that it's a problem. I need some purpose. Please, don't cut me. Openly said this. And Dana said, I get it. And you got a deal. And Dana moved him, a main event multimillionaire, divisional champion, jerking the curtain. Gave him his wish, but he kept him going. It's a very real thing. Now, I bring that to you because if that's the best version of yourself, when you're focused and you're in training camp, you can see where a concern for Jon Jones would come in where now there isn't a purpose. Now this image that was created is no longer there. The rankings come out every Tuesday at 9 a.m. And for the first time since Jon started fighting, he's not going to be in them. Not only not as champion of a division, but the ever so coveted pound for pound rankings. He's not going to be in them. That's effective immediately. tomorrow morning, he will no longer be ranked. I mean, are you understanding that concept in 2 and 3 weeks from now? And the only thing that's real is the money and the miles. The only thing that you could cling to. I, a moment ago, as in 40 seconds, was telling you a story about BJ Penn and had to stand down and just call him a champion. I think he was a champion of 2 different divisions. I'm a personal friend of BJ Penn's. I was at those fights, and is that true? Wasn't he champion at 55 and 70? But the mere fact that I'm an expert in this space and friends with him, and I was there, and I can't remember. I mean, do you see where this becomes a problem? Like, if that's the thing that you're clinging to, it's a tough spot. Now, I want somebody to get a hold of Jon. I want things to work out great for Jon. Jon, he thinks I despise him, but I really just enjoyed him as a rival. I really enjoyed him as a bit of a public enemy, as a way to raise my game. When I've been around Jon, he's been a gentleman. He treats my mother so nice. Oh, he treats my wife so nice. Like there's a side of Jon, which is just a fantastic guy. But as a competitor, there are certain things that he wants. He wants for what you have said to be this terrible thing, right? It's one of these things. This really keeps him going. Well, all of a sudden, when that narcissistic supply goes away, when all of a sudden that controlled environment where you keep them going because there's a goal and there's a purpose and there's a deadline, even though that didn't quite keep him on the straight and narrow, you've got to understand, if you're telling the story the right way, it's not quite what you think. Now, I'll share for you. I don't know how much money Jon made in his career, but I got a really good idea. Really good guess. And I'll bet you, I could come down to within $100,000. All the money that he made in his career, all the checks after all that time, the one fight with Aspinall would have been equal to. And again, it's not quite literal, but it's enough for me to prove my point. It was a very bizarre time to walk away. And Jon didn't understand the business. Jon did not have the best deals. But Jon wouldn't listen. I was one of those people. And I started down this road to smarten him, and I just started down it, and I could feel. It was very clear that he thought he knew more than me. And I remember where we were. I remember where we were, right outside of the room of the Ultimate Fighter. We're mic'd up. I'm covering the mic. The cameras weren't on. I remember where I was. And he was nice about it, but he made it very clear that he's got this whole thing figured out. And I remember here he was telling me what his deal was. I can't believe it. Now, I'm only sharing this with you. He doesn't have any records. Like, it's not quite the way you guys remember it. It's not quite what you think. Was he the Michael Jordan of MMA? Yes. Does he have any pay-per-view records? No, he does not. Does he have any live gate records? No. No, not one. Did he have these amazing sponsors? Bacardi, Gatorade, Under Armour, all things that George St. Pierre had, just for example. No, and no. He got a deal with Nike, which if you guys could see through my wall is 18 miles this direction. And I know that deal. And I know the guy that sat down and inked the deal, and it was great. It was great, and it was millions of dollars in marketing. They were going to put him in China, and they were going to put him in Asia, just put him throughout the world. They're going to put him in stores. In marketing, there wasn't $1. Just so you understand. So before you think that the UFC lost something really big, Jon Jones has only fought 2 times since turning 35. And 35 for an athlete in any sport is 35. He's only fought twice. Sat 3 years of his career on his own. 3 years of his career, he sat back, to try to gain weight to get to the size of a heavyweight, ended up putting on 6 pounds. Now, in 3 years at 3 fights a year is $9 million at an average of $1.65 million per fight, which is what he made. No, none of that. If you were to back the tape up, there was a suspension in there, something, and picograms, and if you were to back the tape up, there was a different suspension in there, and something, and cocaine. I can't remember what he had to serve. Was it a year on one of them? Were they both a year? Well, even if they were both a year, which would be the nicest a suspension could possibly be, and plus the 3 years that I just accounted for that he tried to gain 7 pounds, you're talking about 5 years to a man that's 37 years old, has 5 different kids with 3 different women. I'm not trying to talk his business. This is very well out there, and he's got a common law wife. He's going to say, I don't have a common law wife, but if he ever tries to leave her, he's going to find out in Albuquerque he got a common law wife. And there is nothing that'll separate a man from his wealth more than divorce. And I'm only sharing with you, there's not enough money to go around. I was the highest paid fighter in the sport. And when I used to make that claim, there was an exception. I've never admitted this to you guys. I didn't make what St. Pierre made. I'd always claim I was the highest paid fighter because I knew St. Pierre would never out me, and he never did. I'm out for the first time ever. And I'm just sharing with you. I got 2 kids with 1 Slimmy, and I'm still working pretty hard, man. Like, it just doesn't go around. And Jon had made a comment that he wanted to go into acting. I wish him well. I would go watch a piece like that. But if it's anything like the day that Jon went into commentating, it just wasn't for him. And whoever got a hold of him and put the idea that you could be a great actor and I could represent you, I have a feeling it's somewhere along the lines of the people that did his previous fight career, and he just didn't understand the business. He didn't know what to ask for, when to ask for, and he knew he was great, and he knew it was a lot of money and more he could get elsewhere, and somebody told him it was really big and keep your mouth shut, and most people did, so he never got smartened. It's called getting smartened. Somebody has to sit you down that knows more than you and go, this is how this works. And it's just not the way that you might remember it. Nobody would even pretend that he made more money than Conor. Conor's trying to fight. Conor's trying to fight so bad, he'll do bare knuckle, he'll do jiu-jitsu, but he'll do anything that contractually you will let him to do. And Conor did a good job of holding on to his money because Conor did a great job of making other money. Conor made good investment. All the money that he blew, he still bought things he bought things that made money too. Conor's done just fine. But you have a narcissist who must have a supply. And if you can get that in the media, you're fine. If you can get that on social media, you're fine. And when you can't, you got to go start making movies, even if you're not an actor. And if you don't have those opportunities, you want to come back to fighting. And all of a sudden, you at home, you're going to have to ask yourself, how many guys that walked away when they weren't supposed to? How many of those guys do you see at the UFC? Everybody in the world loved George St. Pierre, but let me just ask you, when they throw a cameo shot, somebody's sitting in the crowd, and he's smiling big, and people are cheering, and they put his name on the bottom of it, how many times have you seen St. Pierre in the crowd? What if I asked you how many times you saw Khabib in the crowd? You're going to think I saw Khabib all the time. No, I didn't say the corner. I said the crowd. It's very relevant. Can't buy those tickets. Those are given. You have to be invited. How many times have you seen those massive stars that everybody likes, that did everything right, in the crowd? How many shows have you seen Ronda invited to? How many have you seen Francis invited to? I'll answer that question for you because it was 1 week ago and they made a huge deal about it and it wasn't a pay-per-view. So what do you do when a narcissist needs a supply? And what do you do when a prize fighter needs money? It's an interesting spot. And there's zero part of this that is meant to poke a hole. It's an encouragement. For those around Jon Jones who have 100% failed him up to this point, for those around him that couldn't get him into an Uber, for those around him that took a piece of his purse and or his earnings and couldn't get him a chauffeur, what's going to happen now that there's no money coming in? very difficult to believe that things are going to be better. It's very difficult that somebody's going to sit him down and talk some sense to him. And when you're dealing with the baddest man in the world, it's not the easiest thing to do. But I implore, if you're within his circle, eyes wide open. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm saying. Eyes wide open. Things do not go very well for professional athletes when the career ends.